Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you another painting tutorial in the Heresy Legion Color Scheme series. Today's video we're going to be focusing on Mortarion's Boys, that is of course the Death Guard. Super interesting color scheme with their dirty wrecked greens, the nice bright vibrant green, and some cool weathering. So stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so unlike most of my other videos where I do a base coat of Chaos Black and then do a Zenithal Freyseer, I went with Chaos Black and then Wraithbone because I wanted a slightly warmer tone for their kind of creamy, decayed armor. I thought that would sit a little bit better. I then moved over to Balthazar Gold. Simple base coat of the trim of the miniature and then the little tiara bit that goes above the eye lenses. There seems to be a separate color on most of the 30k Legion color schemes, so I decided to follow up and do it on this as well. But those are the only bits that I did with the Balthazar Gold, are the trim on the shoulder pads and the little studded line above the eyes. This is definitely going to be one of those color schemes slash tutorials where the model is not going to come together until quite close to the end. So do bear with me, have some patience. I know that this miniature is going to look absolutely dreadful until near the end of the video where it all comes together, so trust me. Even I thought about it when I was even 60-70% of the way through. I was like, what the hell am I doing here? But I am proud of what it turned out like. Next, move over to Creed Camo to give the shoulder pads a base coat, as the 30k Death Guard color scheme was basically all cream armor except for the shoulder pads, which were some sort of toxic-y green color. It was actually quite difficult to figure out what shade of green the shoulder pads was. I used 100,000 different reference pictures. Every single person who has painted 30k Death Guard has painted the green shoulder pads a different shade. All the artwork, it's really hard to tell what color it is, so I did my very best with that. In the end, I think I came to a really nice color that sits really well with the Death Guard scheme. And I think sits next to the art a lot closer than other people have gotten. So let me know in the comments below when you get to the end if you think I've managed to do that or whether it should have been a different shade of green. Next, we're going to move over to Black Templar Contrast, and we're just using this to get the casing of the bolter. It's a nice Phobos pattern bolter. Get the black coating on the entire outer casing of the bolter. It doesn't really matter which other part of the bolter you hit with this, as we're going to go over it with the lead belcher. Just make sure you don't hit the hands. With color schemes like this, where the armor is going to stay mostly this pale color, you do need to be a little bit more careful, as you don't want to stain those fingers with something like black, because that just won't sit right. Next, we're going to jump across to that lead belcher color like I was talking about. We're going to do the rest of the base coat parts on the bolter itself, so the barrel, the sight, the magazine, the handle, and the little stocky part. There's also some cabling that come out of the back of the 30k Mark III power pack, which in most cases I've seen online are done in metallic as well, so I did those with the silver paint. These are the parts that I was talking about. There's usually 2 lines of cables coming out from each side. Just give them a coat of silver. It kind of helps to break up the solid blocky color of the backpack. Once that's all done, that's pretty much all the base coats done, and it's time to wash the miniature. So what we're going to do is we're going to give the miniature an all over coat of Seraphim Sepia. Every single part. Want to be careful that it doesn't pull too much. If it pulls a little bit in places, it doesn't matter too much. We will be layering over the armor, but this will give us that kind of dirty, starting to be decayed look. You know, they've started to stop taking care of their armor as they move away from worshipping the Emperor to worshipping Father Nurgle. Grandfather Nurgle, should I say. So yeah, the Sepia is a really nice coat. It goes over these white base coats so nicely. It gives you this beautiful staining color. And then it just becomes this perfect canvas to layer up with. While the shade is drying, I'm also going to base the miniature, so that when we come back for the second part of the video, we can finish the miniature off to completion in a nice, timely fashion. Okay, while we wait for the shade to dry and we get the miniature based up, I want to take the opportunity to thank you guys once again for the continued support with the 365 project and the support of me and the Mediocre Hobbies channel. If you liked the video so far, make sure you throw a like on it. If you have any questions about anything I do or any suggestions on what the next legions I should do are, make sure you drop them in the comments below. The most number of votes on a legion will be the one that I choose to do next. And if you want to support me and the Mediocre Hobbies channel even further, make sure that you do subscribe. And there are links to things like my Patreon stuff below. Thank you guys so much, and let's get back to the video. Okay, and with the shade dry and the miniature base, this is what we're left with. Choosing this color was also quite difficult. Finding out what exact color the like creamy white pale armor was on the Death Guard. And once again, I had to sit there and look at reference pictures for 20-25 minutes. By the end of it, I settled on Pallid Witch Flesh. I thought it was more of a bone color originally. I was going to take out kind of Ushabti Bones, Screaming Skull colors. But they absolutely were not the right color. So Pallid Witch Flesh seems to have done the trick. And as I started to layer up the miniature with that, I think to myself that I made the right decision. And it starts to come together. I'm basing up all the 30k miniatures that I'm doing with this Martian basing scheme. Just so they look cohesive in one big group. And so when I put all 18 miniatures together in one shot, they're going to look kind of cool. I actually can't wait to see that as a whole product. But yeah, you're going to take your time, layer up the segmented armor with the Pallid Witch Flesh, leaving that sepia color in all those cracks and recesses. You can even leave it a little bit more than normal, like the layering job that you do. You can leave behind a little bit more of that yellowy color. It will just accentuate the idea of the Death Guard and their poor mistreated equipment and armor. It did layer over this like a dream. With a lot of fun to do. Not tedious, not kind of awkward or annoying. Something where if I sit down for an hour and layer up the armor on 10 of these guys in one go, it wouldn't bother me at all. I think it would be an enjoyable process. So here's what one of the legs look like. I'm going to go ahead and do this on the rest of the miniature now. Here we are. Here's what the 30k Death Guard armor looks like. It's now time to fix that horrible looking green shoulder pads. For this, I ended up on Elysian green. That is the green that I finished on, which I thought was closest to what the art depicts Death Guard shoulder armor as. And what I think some people may have painted, some people want a lot brighter, some people want a lot darker. To get the kind of smooth, nice, consistent coat, you're going to require 2 coats of this. Quite quick and easy. 1 coat, next shoulder pad, 1 coat, and then you can go back to the first shoulder pad, and the first coat will be dry. Jump across. Here's what it looks like after 1 coat, and that's dry. And then you quickly go over with a second coat, and it gives a perfect like pearl coverage. I love seeing that happen. The paint just gets the grip it needs and gives you that nice coat. Perfect. Next, we're going to move over to Leadbelcher, and we're just going to layer up all of those metallic parts on the miniature. So once again, all those parts on the bolter. We're also going to take the opportunity to layer up all of the Balthazar gold that was shaded with sepia. We want to pull it kind of away from a gold color scheme and push it more towards a brass scheme. So that's where the Leadbelcher over gold comes in. I've been doing this technique on over a bunch of different golds and really pleased with the results. You should try it out yourselves, especially if you follow along with this guide. I promise you won't be disappointed. And as you can see, I'm not trying to get full coverage. I'm almost stippling the silver on, catching the edges and all the flat panels, but leaving kind of nooks and crannies with the Balthazar gold. And that's the kind of metallics that you're left with on the shoulder pads. I also took the opportunity to paint in the eye lenses with Leadbelcher, just so we can throw a contrast in there in a moment, and give it that nice glowing eye lens screen thing. So I used Corvus Black to layer up the bolt gun, the casing of it anyway. Nice quick job. Blood Angels red contrast in those silver eye sockets I was talking about a second ago. Just a nice quick coat. I've been doing blue on most of the miniatures I've seen so far, but the artwork seems to depict these guys as red. Want to take your time once again not to hit too much of the cream, because that will stand out a mile. Turn kind of a pinky color. From here we're going to move over to Seraphim Sepia again, but this is much more selective. We're not going to be doing any kind of all over washes and stuff. What we're going to be doing is putting a nice little blob on the rivets. So when I did it here, I didn't have enough on my brush, so I went back, applied a little dot to the rivet, and then I just dragged it down a little bit, just for that kind of oil slick that you get on Deathguard miniatures. Once again, nice little dollop over the rivet, and then just pull it down a little bit. Adds that nice bit of weathering to the armor. And like layering up the armor, this step is actually quite enjoyable. It's very therapeutic, and you don't get to do it a lot on Space Marine armor. They're much too meticulous in repairing and cleaning it. So things like the Deathguard that you will get to do that with. So for the last step, we're going to add some chip damage to the armor. This is going to be very similar to the damage we did to the Imperial Fist. So we're going to go back to our Green Stuff World weathering stick thing. What are they called? Yeah, weathering sticks. Basically, this is just a bit of foam that comes out of the bit of a pipe. You tear it off, so it's got an irregular shape at the end of it. After this, I use Rhinox hide. Usually I use black and silver, but Rhinox hide I think sits with the cream armor a little bit better. Basically, just want to dip the sponge into a little bit of paint, wipe off the majority of it, and then just basically stipple on and stab on some of the brown paint. It's best to have next to nothing on the sponge as you do this. Just pressing lightly and continue to go over one area until you're happy with the amount of paint that leaves. If you have too much paint on it and you stab it, you're just going to get this horrible big blob that you're not going to be happy with. So this is the final result on what I am delivering to you guys as a 30k Deathguard infantry in Mark III armor. I hope you guys like what you see. I hope you agree that it is a cool looking Deathguard paint scheme. Something that if I had an army painted for 30k to this standard, that I would be pleased to call it Deathguard. I wish that I had some Deathguard transfers for this guy, but unfortunately I do not have a lot of Legion transfers. I've only got enough for about 5 or 6 Legions. So the majority of the Legions I do for this series are going to be missing their transfers. So apologies for that. Thank you guys so much for watching until the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next video.